Hello everyone, it's Angelika Kargulewicz, clinical nutritionist, and in today's episode we will focus on our brain, and namely on the ingredients that support the brain function. And if you are interested in these issues, please stay with me today. Cognitive functions are extremely important in all people, but especially for those who are elderly people. And the question is how cognitive impairment can manifest itself. So, for example, we can experience impaired orientation in the time and space, but also, for example, concentration and attention deficit disorders, as well as writing, counting, and reading difficulties. The most advanced form of cognitive impairment is dementia, and the most common cause of dementia is Alzheimer disease, which is a neurodegenerative disease. And what are the statistics when it comes to the prevalence of dementia? So by 2050, the number of dementia patients will increase up to 4 times, which means that 100 million of people will suffer from dementia. Dementia is also a significant social problem and also a serious disease. And the question is, what kind of nutritional factors can help protect against dementia? If you are interested in this information, please stay with me today. First ingredient I would like to mention are fats, but not just any fat. It's about the fat which contain mono and polyunsaturated fatty acids. For example, including those what we can find in fatty fish. For example, cod liver oil as well as a good source of those fatty acids. But not only. For example, grains, nuts and seeds are also a good source of polyunsaturated fatty acids, but very beneficial one we can find, for example, in salmon, mackerel, halibut and herring. And here it is worth to mention that omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids, which are the example of the polyunsaturated fatty acids, make up as much as 20% of the fat in the human brain. And docosahexaenoic acid, DHA, is the fatty acid which is found in the highest amount in the cell membrane of the neurons. Unfortunately, human body is not very efficient at synthesizing DHA, and therefore its amount in the body depends on the supply with the food. Interestingly, long time ago, an access to DHA in hominids has been implicated as a determinant of the brain development and encephalization. DHA influences neuronal plasticity and also positively affects recall, attention and speed of thinking, and just 180 milligrams per day of DHA reduces the risk of dementia by 50%. The requirement for omega-3 fatty acids, EPA and DHA is at least 250 milligrams per day, but the preferred daily dose for neuroprotection is up to 1 gram. Preventing damage to synapses in addition to fatty acids mentioned is also a protein supply. But why? Because protein energy malnutrition particularly exacerbates the progression of neurodegenerative changes. Important for our brain function and the prevention of dementia is also to provide zinc, and this mineral we can find, for example, in cocoa, in wheat germs, peas and also in beef. But also another mineral is very important for our brain, and this mineral is selenium, and this mineral we can find, for example, in fish, eggs, also cereal food product, but also in mushrooms, tomatoes, garlic, asparagus and nuts, and here especially in Brazil nuts. When it comes to neuroprotection, we should also remember about antioxidant supply in the form of, for example, vitamin C, vitamin E, beta-carotene, but also flavonoids like resveratrol and substances contained in cocoa, dark chocolate, tea and yerba mate. And for the proper brain functioning and also neuroprotection, also very important is tea. It can be even used as a complementary therapy in neurodegenerative diseases. It has anti-amyloid effect, probably because of the effect on the protein kinase C pathway. And regular and prolonged consumption of the green tea in the dose of 100 milliliters per day improves cognitive functions, shows relaxation effects and also prevents dementia. And we can obtain even greater benefit when we increase the intake of the green tea to 500 milliliters per day. And what is very important, not to add milk to the tea. Why? Because adding milk, for example, to the black tea reduces the antioxidant properties of the polyphenols, and even such a small amount of the milk, like 50 milliliters of the milk in 200 milliliters of the black tea, reduces also the L-theanine content. And L-theanine is very important for the brain function because it relieves the symptoms of the stress and anxiety, and particularly high amount of the L-theanine we can find in matcha. Adequate supply of the B vitamins is also crucial for the proper functioning of the brain, especially vitamin B6, B12 and folic acid. Those vitamins are crucial when it comes to prevention of hyperhomocysteinemia, and especially high source, very rich source of vitamin B12 is fresh herring. It provides as much as 13 micrograms of vitamin B12 in every 100 gram of this fish, and it is worth to mention that the requirement for this vitamin is 2.4 microgram per day. And let's not forget about spices, because the consumption of large amounts of spices, for example, like capsaicin in peppers, curcumin in turmeric, but also eugenol in, for example, cloves, but also, for example, annetol in aniseed and apigenin in persimmon onion, but also, for example, pepper, licorice, ginger, cinnamon, and, for example, garlic. They prevent the development of neurodegenerative diseases because they reduce the beta-amyloid plaque, they inhibit their aggregation, and also reduce the beta-amyloid containing fibers. And another important group of the food products are green leafy vegetables like kale, cabbage, spinach and lettuce, and they are also so promoted in so-called mind diet. This is a kind of diet which is dedicated for people who are at risk of dementia development, and the mind diet is just an acronym of Mediterranean and the DASH diet, and how often we should consume the green leafy vegetables in order to prevent dementia. So it is advisable to eat at least 6 portions per week. And in the prevention of dementia, vitamin preparations containing iron and copper also should be avoided. Why? Because they can be detrimental in a high doses for our brain. And let's remember that iron dietary supplementation should only be done on medical prescription, and which is also very important, aluminium. Why? Because aluminium can be also detrimental for our brain, and in order to limit aluminium intake, we should avoid, for example, aluminium utensils and also antacids and baking powder. And for our brain health, it is also important to promote physical activity and, of course, stop smoking and avoid consuming of the alcohol. And let's not forget about our microbiota, because we have a very important axis between our intestine and the brain. So it is advisable to eat food products with live cultures of bacteria and also pre and probiotics. And if we really want to prevent the dementia development, we should also prevent the development of the disease like obesity, hypertension and type 2 diabetes. But why? Because excessive body weight promote insulin resistance and also the inflammation at the cellular level, which means the production of the pro-inflammatory cytokines. And this situation leads to an increased beta-amyloid deposition in the brain. And this is especially relevant for people with a genetic predisposition to develop dementia. For example, people with a family history of the disease, but also in people with a genetic predisposition in the form of the presence of the variant 4 of the EPAO gene. In conclusion, cognitive decline, including dementia and also Alzheimer disease, is a growing concern, with projections indicating a 4-fold increase in dementia cases by 2050. Nutritional strategies to mitigate this risk include omega-3 fatty acids, notably EPA and DHA, and we can find these fatty acids in fatty fish. And these fatty acids, they support the brain health, but also slows down the cognitive impairment. And also, let's not forget about vitamins from the group of the B, like B6, B12 and folic acids, because those vitamins have the power to lower the homocysteine level, which is linked to impaired cognition. And of course, let's remember about antioxidants found in green leafy vegetables, berries and certain spices, because they combat the oxidative stress associated with neurodegeneration. Incorporating these nutrients into one's diet together with lifestyle modification like regular exercise and also maintaining a healthy body weight may contribute to the prevention of the cognitive decline. Thank you very much for watching my video. If you like it, please leave the thumb up and also don't forget to subscribe my channel. See you soon in the next episode.